guys ready? You good? All right, be right back. Not too old for that stuff, but not bad, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry I had to have a little bit of fun. Now I'm going to have a lot of fun today because the minute I leave here today, I'm literally going on a plane to Sydney, Australia with my family, and then New Zealand. So with a big smile on my face, it's not because you're here, it's because of where I'm actually going. So today I want to walk through some things that I think are really important to think about in terms of data and AI, and then let's actually get into the applications that we're now creating. Because I think too often, companies are bombarded with products, with vendors, and they really don't know what their first step should be. There's a lot of chaos out there right now, and we need to take a pause. So the first thing I want to do, actually, John Hilton, my partner in everything we do in data and AI, we were at lunch earlier this week, and William Figueroa said, I think we just need a moment in truth in data. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to steal that. So it's literally fresh off the presses. But when I think of the word data and how that relates to AI, I like to think of it in very simple terms at first, and then we can scale into that. So data and AI, what can we really do to go from paralysis? Now we all have it right now. When there is too much information, we feel paralyzed. And how do we get to that point where we can do more with it? All right, I'm going to ask, just really help me for a second. You don't have to talk yet. We're going to roll up the sleeves, folks, have a little bit of fun here today. All right, I'm sorry. It's hot up there. All right, there we go. And when I think of the basics of data and AI, it's simple words. We can store data. We can recall data. Now, recall is really hard. Think about that. We've been doing that for how many years, trying to retrieve the data that's been stored somewhere. And now we're using all these new things, interpreting it. That's what an LLM a lot of times is doing. It's retrieving and it's interpreting and hopefully communicating it in a way that we can make sense of and we trust. And so there's all these words that keeps getting in the way of AI adoption, AI transformation, and just good use of AI. And it's a lot of times the human aspect of it. So I'm going to talk a lot about human and AI as these parallels. I see a lot of that because that allows us to really think of how it relates to an organization or to you personally. So I promise this, I'm going to talk about how you can become AI inspired as an individual, and then what does it take to go to your organization. So you like this, how I got like this bar chair going back here, and I don't have it exactly where I need to, I gotta keep going backwards, but anyways, my name is Charlie Apigian. I am the lead data and AI strategist at LBMC. I also am a professor at Belmont University, and I'm also a bunch of other things, but right now, today, I'm here to talk to you about AI, and I get to do a lot of really cool things at LBMC and build a lot of cool AI applications, but the thing that I'm most proud of is building teams and the people that are now building those applications. That's been by far the most fun. I've got a few of them up here that I'm so excited I get to work with every day. And thank you, John, for giving me that opportunity, because it is an absolute dream for this old professor to act like I still know what I'm doing. And by the way, I still know what I'm doing, darn it, I swear. All right, let's get into it, and let's talk about AI. But before we get there, what is your definition of data? I gotta start there. And so if you think of your definition of data, there's a lot of different ones out there. And the one that I always go to is very abstract. Think of it. It's a capturing of an imperfect view of reality. Everything that's data is basically trying to capture reality. Isn't that what it's for? To chronicle whatever it is. It could be I would say it could be cave paintings, it could be records, it could be a conversation that you've had with somebody stored in your brain. It's data. And so think of it that way when you're thinking of it in terms of using it. It's not just numbers, it's not just zeros and ones. And it's not perfect. When you go to the doctor, why do you go to the doctor? You go to the doctor to see how you're doing. They take all these vitals. That data is stored about you based on your reality at that moment. And that's what they come back next year and say, hey, this is what you were last year. This is the reality of you at that time. Now you are here. That's what we use data for. And I even like going down to just simplifying it to, it's just a simplified snapshot of a complex world. It's really hard. Data's hard, and we keep trying to say, if you can only measure that. But you know what? That's hard. So we use with 5 different things. We use proxies for happiness and the way that we move and are active. All of that are proxies for what we're really looking at, which is the ultimate goal. Just embrace that. There's no silver bullet here. There's no magic. It's just we're trying to store what's happened. So if I know what I can do with that data, then I'm able to summarize it, visualize it, I'm able to analyze it, and then we're all here today because AI tells us we can predict with it. And what does that really mean? Okay? So when I think of predicting, it's all about patterns. And I've been doing the data science thing forever, and I'm not going to talk about who I am today or anything because I want to get to our demo. But I've been doing the data science thing for a couple of years. I would say I'm a classically trained data scientist before that was a thing. My PhD is basically statistics. I was a programmer, and I'm like, oh, those two things go together, and that's called data science now. And so if you've got as much gray hair as I have, that's about as good as you can get with this stuff, right? But now there's this new world. And so how do you blend all of those together is where we can go. All right, so what's artificial intelligence? What is it? How can you do something with it if you don't know what it is? Is it just Gen AI? Is it an if-then statement in Excel? Is it what my wife was telling me earlier today, what I had to pack? That's not artificial intelligence, folks, and don't you get me in trouble today. What is the definitions? And the most basic that I've seen is obviously just anything that automates human tasks or in place of human behavior, right? You hear that a lot. And I'm going to keep it simple, and there's a lot of different definitions out there. But if we do keep it simple, I'm just going to say it automates or enhances tasks and decision making. Just for today, keeping it simple. If you want to make it any more complex than that, we will over time. So this is taking out robots taking over the world, anything like that. What is it that enhances what we do as well as automates? And why am I saying enhance? Because if we're using data to make better decisions, it is enhancing our decisions. That's the extraction retrieval stuff that we're able to do with data using artificial intelligence. So do you know where we are on the spectrum of the AI, 7 stages of AI? We started with rules-based a long time ago. What year do you think that was? Before I was born, darn it. Like the 50s, right? We can go back to the 50s, and you can go back to the Turing test and Alan Turing and all of that. That's when machine learning or artificial intelligence started, but it was all rules-based. It was all if this, then that. It was all code. Then we got to contextual, in 2022? That's when, and I'm just saying that because all of a sudden it was aware. It could have a memory stored and keep a conversation with us really good once ChatGPT 3.5 came out. And that was around, so that was 66 years between rules-based and contextual. All right, that third one on there, domain specific. Has that happened? Are we able to now use artificial intelligence specifically within industries and within specific use cases? A couple of years ago we couldn't. It was just a cool little thing we had on our computer. Today we can. And I'd say that was really good as of last year. Like where I felt it was really doing a good job. So that only took 2 years to get to there. What about the next one? The next one, when you talk about logic, reasoning, what you're really talking about there is things being able to talk to each other. It's really the agentic side of workflows right now. Are we there yet? We're going to be this year. So in 1 year, we went from, or you can think about that, in 3 years, we went from contextual to domain-specific to reasoning. When we get to the next one, honestly, I don't care. I'm betting on humans still. I'm still betting on y'all. All right, I forgot to play another song. You're all looking at me like he's in the way of lunch, and they ran out of lunch yesterday, and I don't want to be last. So I promise to get you all out of here at 12:45 for sure. I still think we're a ways away from that. I could spend another 20 minutes on that. I don't want to. But to think of it in terms of where we're going to go, I like to think of it in terms of what's stored, what's processed, and then how we access that. And I'll get to that here in a second. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. And that's, are we all level set now? You all know what data is? I'm like, I didn't realize that was data. Of course you did. Of course you did. Just taking a reset. We're trying to get back to our roots, and now we understand what is it that we want. And so if I want to enhance or automate something, I better have a reason for doing that in artificial intelligence. And I'm making such a big deal out of this because I am tired of technology first, not problem first. I want to solve problems, and I want to use technology to do it. And I want you all to do the same. So let's see what we can do. All right, so again, when I think of AI, there are basically 3 different types that we have all been doing. It goes back to rules-based in the 50s. We have been writing code with if-then statements, do loops, you name it, making decisions. And when we do that, what we're doing is we're anticipating what's going to happen. We have been writing code, trying to figure out what Marco's thinking, and hope we have an if-then statement somewhere hard-coded in there to make that happen. That's hard. But all of a sudden, we were able to use data to train a model and test it and predict with it. And that's machine learning. Really became, probably not until the 90s, 2000s, and then neural networks came into play. And really everything changed in around 2017 when the first transformer models were really put into production. And Google probably was the one leading that at the forefront. And everything that they did after that, now we're in this world where we can create. But what is generative AI really doing? Is it creating or just predicting? With a lot of data, it's predicting. It's predicting the next word. That's it. When it gives you a sentence as an answer, every word on that page was predicted based on the data that's in its huge, huge corpus. And what they found out is if we give a transformer model all the data in the world, it actually comes back coherent and can answer questions. And that's when OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. And they had 2 out, about a year or 2 before 3, and then 3.5 came out, I think, in March of 23. Is it 23? Am I off by a year? I can't remember. No, it was 22, and then 3.5 was, I think, March of 23. And it blew our minds at that point. And then, of course, when 4 came out, we've been at the races ever since. All right, so if we're looking at a generative AI model, we have a prompt, we have a model, we have a huge corpus. Nice and simple. Who is the CEO of Apple? We all know who the CEO of Apple is right now. That is the current CEO of Apple. That's the one I want it to be, right? That's my, we all wish it was still Steve Jobs. Of course it's not. And I make that as that could be a hallucination though, because it has a lot of data and it's trying to predict what it is, but it's looking at CEO, Apple, and it sees Steve Jobs 1,000 times, it sees Tim Cook 50 times, it's going to think it's Steve Jobs. And that's basically the prediction model that you have. So we know it's actually good old Tim Cook, he never gets enough credit. So if we break down the Gen AI model, it really comes into 3 components. There's data, there's processing, and then some application that shows it. It's pretty simple, right? ChatGPT is not the transformer model. It is a chatbot that uses the engine that you prescribe, whether it's 4.0 or 4 mini, whatever it is, you're telling it what engine to use at that given time. And then the application can be a different application altogether. The data is, we think of it as public knowledge, or what's publicly available, and whatever else they're able to put into that. I know that I like to use sometimes, if I just want the examples of code, I use ChatGPT because they have Stack Overflow, and I grew up on Stack Overflow and all of their examples, so that when I get an answer from ChatGPT, it looks like the code that I'm used to seeing. That's because of the data that they're ingesting. So data leads to the processing, leads to the application. I like to think of it as, I get really into like my brain compared to what we're seeing in artificial intelligence. And when is my brain going to be taken over? You know where we win right now? There's a couple of things. There's two I would say are really a big deal. We have connections in our brain that isn't even close to being emulated yet. The synapse and all the other nodes and all that stuff. Anybody a neuroscience person? Thank God no hands went up. All right, I can make this stuff up right now. But we have more connections. I can look at the person sitting up front and say, she's friendly. Now why did I say that? I don't have any history on her. I didn't have to go back and look at anything prior. I just can tell by the way she's sitting, you must be a very nice person, right? Please be nice today. She's actually the person that's telling me to get off the stage, so I got to be nice to her. Our brain is what processes. Now, do we have more data than OpenAI? We don't have more facts, but do we have more data? I don't have the answer to that one. And I'm reading this great book right now about why we remember, and our brain doesn't lose things. We just can't recall it over time. So if you get to my age, all of a sudden my GPT-4 isn't working so good. And I got to have senses of smell and other things. So I don't know the dimensions of all of those other senses, which still is hard to emulate in an artificial way, what type of data storage that means. I don't know. And that's as far as I'm going into neuroscience today. All right, so if we're talking about Gen AI, the reason I'm talking about generative AI is our demo is really going to highlight some of the custom things that you can do with it. We're going to focus on RAG as an example. So there's many different ways that you can customize a generative AI model. And we talk about fine-tuning, and everybody's like, what does that mean? Do I give it a new data set? Do I completely retrain it? Do I make my own? There's ways to augment it. There's ways to infuse context. It's just prompt engineering. There's other ways to dynamically make it better, like through examples, dynamically. And all of those are listed. But right now, everybody's talking about RAG, so I thought I would focus on that. So when you think of RAG, what you're doing is you want that brain that is 4.0 to be used with your data. So you think about that, and I haven't picked on Ryan yet, so I'll pick on Ryan. So Ryan's a really smart kid. I know him, and luckily I can make fun of him in front of a huge group, by the way. He's a really smart person. So if I just ask him a general question, he's going to give me a good answer based on the knowledge he has. But what if I gave Ryan a book and said, Ryan, I want you to use that beautiful brain of yours, but only give me answers from this book. That's what really RAG allows us to do. Now think about that book being your documents. That's your company's employee handbook. It's all of your best practices. It's everything that you have, and I'll just use the engine that's already available to me, but I'm going to change the data. And so what you do is you take that data, those documents, and you create snippets of those, chunks. So if it's a page and there's paragraphs, you can take each of those paragraphs and take it out, and then what you do is you are vectorizing. So vectorizing means changing text to numbers, zeros and ones, so that it's stored in a way that a machine can understand it. So when you are taking documents, even if you upload a document, do you ever do that with ChatGPT? You upload a document, right? It has to vectorize that to be able to give you an answer back on it. Because at the end of the day, a computer doesn't read text, it reads the machine language of text, which is still numbers, zeros and ones. So there's a lot to it, actually, but really easy for you and I to do today. Like, you could go home today and create a RAG system, drag and drop, probably in most cases. I don't recommend that for enterprise-wide solutions, but you can do that. So if we do that and think about it as a personal aspect, this is my personal part. I'm getting right into the demo. How am I doing? Good? Okay. All right. I told you it's 6 minutes per demo. All right. Good. If I was to give you any advice on what to do personally, I would stick to 3 things. I would get really good at retrieving information. I would get really good at prototype. So anytime somebody says vibe coding to me, I'm all in to prototype. You know what vibe coding is? Vibe, V-I-B-E. That means you are using an LLM to code. You're just telling it, or you're going to a replicate, you're going to a site and you're saying, build me a website, and it does. That's wonderful for prototyping. At least this is my advice. If you want to go and use that for a commercial and you make a bunch of money, please do. But I'm going to use it to prototype because I can get it done in 30 minutes when that used to take me 4 days. The acceleration of innovation is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so the third thing then goes to automate. How do I get things off my plate? And I'm going to get personal for a second. And what I mean by that is I want to use AI to become more human. I am tired of saying I'm too busy. You want to go to coffee with me, or you want to just connect with a person, I should not say I'm too busy anymore. That's not fair. It's not fair to me, by the way, because I kind of like hanging out with people. You can tell I like people, I think. So how do I become more empathetic? How do I become more compassionate? How do I tell dumb jokes in front of people and realize they're not going to laugh at it, and that's what's funny? You're supposed to laugh at that part. That was kind of funny. Come on, my wife would say, yeah, she's too used to that. What can make you more human is what you should be using artificial intelligence for. This is the inflection point, folks. Are you going to become more behind a screen, or are you going to become free of the screen? I don't know how to do it yet, but that's what I'm focusing on for me personally. I want to get rid of the stuff that I should not be doing so I can talk more and mentor more and learn more from individuals. So anyways, all right, I'm off to preaching this. If you did want to get started, here's the evolution. If you haven't done any type of automation, Zapier's the best in terms of connecting things together through rules. Remember, Zapier came out 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and it's basically APIs that connect your apps together. And then with if-then statements, it's really good at automating things. If you want to take it a step further, Mind Studio is great. That's where I am right now in terms of my personal productivity. I use Mind Studio to just create a couple of things, but it also has an LLM in the background. For your enterprise, a lot of people are now using Crew AI. It's a great starting point because it's low code, and it chats with you, and it's pretty. But if you really want to get into the weeds, you got to use a programming language or some type of infrastructure. And what we've decided to use is LangChain and LangGraph and that ecosystem because it's open source, it works with everything, and we can customize the heck out of it. So you can see from novice to enterprise-wise solution, that's really your evolution right there, if you think about that. So if Mind Studio gets a bunch of hits over the next day, please tell them to give me a big for that. All right, let's tie that together. Ready for the big, yes, I'm there. I need 2 minutes to do the intro. I'm going to do a really cool walk-up song like that. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool. All right, let's tie it all together. So we all want to use a prompt to do something. We're past the point of wanting to write the structured query. What can I do from a prompt these days? I just want to ask a simple question, and I just want to get an answer. Wouldn't that be great? How many hours would that save me if I could ask a simple question and get a simple answer from all of my documentation? Instead of, who has really good folder management? No, you do not. Well, you probably do because you don't have full data. Younger folks do. Nobody over the age of 30 has good full data. Right? It's hard to find stuff. What if we could just ask a question and we get the answer? What if we could ask a question and actually retrieve it from our data, like from our literal data sources within our company? Am I on that slide? I keep thinking I know what's coming next and I don't. So how would I write a query from a prompt? That was a great question for us at the beginning of the year. And then lastly, how do I ask a simple question and then automate the tasks that I want to automate to add ROI, to add efficiency, and what I hope, make us more human? Well, that today, folks, is going to be our demo, which is AI Flow. So I'm not going to act like this is saving the world, but what we decided to do was create a platform that allows us to ask simple questions and either retrieve, query, or automate something within our enterprise. Thank you. And so it is a platform, and we have added a couple of different agent-related workflows. We think of them as workflows as opposed to agents, because agents to me are individual, and then workflows are a chain of agents. So that's why we're using the word flow as opposed to the word agents. And agents is overused. So I'm all in on workflows these days. And so what does that look like? That's it. That's AI Flow. No, that's not what AI Flow looks like. AI Flow is meant to be a simple to use, something similar to what you're used to. And by the way, this, you should have seen the first version. It had all these knobs and whistles on it. You know, it's like, can we just simplify that to where we can get an answer from documents, from our data, or to automate anything about that? And so you can see we've got on here these little buttons, dot flow, data flow. You don't even have to select those because the prompt decides it for you. And so I can't think of a better way to demo this. Oh, wait. Gotta get your lookups. I'm so professional, aren't I? This is just a library. Darn it, I'm losing. Okay, I found it. There we go. Oh, there we go. That's such a great song. I'm going to introduce my buddy, my Sergeant Nars, get up here, Matt Navaki. Now please give him a hand. This is the part that, oh, I'm going to stop that. But this is the first web song. I actually heard them play in person like a month ago. They can still play it, folks. Oh, awesome song. I wonder if I get to the hip. Is this where we go? We say A, you say I. A! A! I say AI, you say flow. Oh, now that would be cool. No, we won't do that. No. Sorry. I get somebody up. I love the team that we've built. Can I give the story about you and I?
Absolutely.
So I was looking for somebody that could build a front end for basically this way back in August. And it was a different version. We were in trouble. And I go to one of our data science meetups, which please go to meetups. And Matt, well, I said, I need a front-end developer, and there's Matt. He just graduated from Nashville Software School. After 12 years of touring as a musician, while he was in Australia, which is where I'm going, he decided to sign up for Nashville Software School. And I just said, what the heck? And I said, John, I think I got our guy. And he goes, let's give him a chance. And he has absolutely knocked it out of the park. So let's give him another huge hand. So, I think we'll go right into it. I'm not even gonna, I'll show you this part because I think this shows what we're gonna be talking about today is how do we do this? So a prompt needs something to trigger what happens next. And so an agent can be an orchestrator, it can be a reviewer, it can be a task management automator, you name it. It has different functions based on what you want to do. So I think we go right into it. We'll come back to that part. And so, don't you ever, like, when they do, like, demos, like you see, like, Apple, and it's like, whoever's on there, and they go, and by the way, here's AI Flow, and everybody, it's like there's this awkward clapping. It's like, are we supposed to clap for something on the script? No, you don't have to clap right now. And actually, I'm showing you what it looks like after the fact. So again, through work with one of our clients, we built out a platform for them to be able to retrieve, at first, just documents. Then they said to us, could we do that with our data? And we're like, I think we can. But we had to think of it differently, because when you go into data, you can't hallucinate. And so you had to create the structured queries to be able to do that. You want to drive from here, and then, or do you want to do it from yours?
I have served too.
Okay, let's go with yours. And let's hope it goes to the right spot. The reason we wanted Matt to show his is because he wants to show you behind the scenes just as much. And to show you that, there is a little bit to this. You got to choose to extend some. Oh, you did the extend instead of near. What's that? Okay, we can do mine. We can do mine. Awesome. Okay, when's lunch start? Okay, 11 minutes. We're good. We're good. By the way, did you everybody in for the raffle? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we got to do the cheering. There we go. So, what we can't show you our clients' data. So what we did is we uploaded a bunch from the top 30 companies. We ingested all of their annual reports, 10Ks. We took all of their financials from the last, I think, basically 30 years, and just put it into two different places, right? Where data goes, where documents go. We then vectorized those documents, and as you see, we got to find out. Let's go annual sales for Apple, and who is the CEO of Apple? Let's see if it gets it right. Now, the reason I wanted to add the CEO part is it has to know that it's not going to get the CEO from the financials or from the hard data. It needs to go look that up. So it has to parse that part out. So that's part of the orchestration. It has to extract the data from the prompt, or I should say extract the words, keywords. Then it has to decide what to do with it. Does it go down and look at documents? Does it go up and look at our data? And yes, by the way, folks, this takes time, and clients do not like that. Everything needs to be faster, instantaneous, and but processing through a database, it's not our fault that it takes 19 seconds to get something back from Snowflake. But we have to deal with that. So, all right, did it work? All right, there's Tim Cook, I see that. Let's see what data, so to see how you got doc flow and you've got data flow at the top, it gives you answers from the text, and it gives you answers from the data. And so this is literally pulling directly. So if this was your company's data, it could pull it in as actual table form. There you go. And this is, let's look at doc flow for a second. And so this was always meant to be just from docs, but now why not include those two and get better answers, more complete answers from your documents and your data, and be able to see things that way. And so just click on one of the documents. We try our best to make it transparent. So if this was your company, let's say you want to know vacation leave for your company into the employee handbook, and you get an answer of 6 weeks, or no, what? It's really 6 weeks. And then you go and you look at the document, and it does say that. That would be, by the way, 6 weeks would be awesome. But you can see how that transparency really helps you get to that. So, and I'm gonna, let's go to history real quick. And how about that one? So I just asked a very general question. What are the top 5 companies in terms of growth in the future? And it went to all the documents and looked at all the annual reports. And then it went to all the data and decided, and it came up with the answer for me. So this is going from retrieval to interpretation, and then communicating that back to us. And you can see it did this. Now this is straight numbers. This is just looking at what happened last year, what happened this year, and what are the differences. But if you look at doc flow, it's giving you more of a comprehensive look, looking at what's in there. What are the future products coming out? And you can see it even gives it to you, and go down even farther. It gives you follow-up questions. What are specific new products contributing to? And you can get that as suggestions to that. I'd really like to see, we can end with it. Yes, we can. We still have 7 minutes. I want to see your computer because I really want you to do the news one from yours. Okay? So what we're going to now show you is, so you can see doc flow. It doesn't matter. You could just look at documents, you could just look at data, or you could look at both. But then everybody's like, well, I want the automation. That's why I'm here, right? It's all of that is not as easy as you think. Actually, when you get ready, I'm going to show one quick thing. Sorry for going back and forth. Sorry for going back and forth. I am sweating up a storm here. Just these lights. Here we go. I just wanted to show you how complicated this actually can be. And so, if I was to ask a question, what are quarterly revenue for Apple that was over $90 billion per quarter? This is what we're trying to achieve behind the scenes. So if you were to write that and you know SQL, you would say, okay, I get it. I see where the from is, I see where the where condition is, I see how it did greater than $90 billion. But what did it take to get there? Well, the first step is that router. Then it enhances the query. And what it does is it takes it and it has to actually put it in a language that SQL can actually read. So it has to enhance that. It can't just take the word revenue. What if it's not the word revenue? If it's sales. And then anything that has to go down to doc flow goes to doc flow. But then here are all of the steps for us to create that query before we get a response. It's a lot. And so that is all coded. So at the enterprise level, to get to that is some nice sophistication. I just want you to think about that as you start building. And by the way, buy is fine, but you've got to have a way to integrate. And that a lot of times is custom. All right, let's show the things walking around on your screen. At the end of this, I'll put my stuff up on there for my contact information and.
How do I get my Teams messages?
Well, you close them. We're going to see his back, unfortunately. So what we have here is we created one called Newsflow, and this was just an easy one. We like to web scrape. We've got a couple of web scrape geniuses up here. Marco's actually one. That's fine. You can't steal these folks. Sorry. But the ability to take external data and bring that in for insight as well. And so we thought, let's just put that into a fun little thing. So what we did is we took all of those companies and we just put them in a drop down, which you'll see here in a second. And you just open up AI Flow right there. Oh, you got it behind you. There you go. That's fine.
So
there's Newsflow, and
I'm gonna Newsflow. I'm gonna have the server logs up here just so I can show you how it's going.
So you can see it's select company, select the news source, and then the amount of time, and it's going to give you every article back. And you're like, oh, I can do that now by just going to Google. But can you get sentiment? Can you get whether it's positive or negative? And so those are the enhancements that we like to see as we start going through this. So yeah, and what he's showing you right now is everything is now live and processing behind the scenes. And that's everything that you see right there. And did it get you an answer? It's getting there. You can see it's right now, which is pretty cool. It's showing you sentiment is positive. And right now it's showing you each of those articles, where it got it from, where it's storing it, and then it's almost there. Scraping the internet does take time. God, it is. So Dave, are you going to be doing to have our winner yet? You sure? You don't want me to just take this home? All right.
Call
Of
course,
it's going to be slower. It's not always this slow. Which one did you pick? Did you do like 17 weeks?
3M, yeah.
Oh, 3M. Yeah, 3M's been our mainstay. It's not a demo unless it doesn't work in front of you, right? There's nothing better than that. Absolutely. Are you stuck? It's your computer. Oh, there we go. We're getting there. It's still processed 5 articles. That's what you wanted to post, right?
Yes.
All right, it's almost there.
So So it's processed all 5, now it's combining them. Now we get the response back to the front end. So you see that it did take a lot longer.
Minimize
Usually it's
that.
around 10 seconds. So here's our results. It'll take in every single article, rank them, and then resend them to the LLM, which will rank which one was most impactful. The front end will mark that down. Overall sentiment is pretty positive for 3M. You get an overall what the article was, key points. You can click this; it'll open up directly to the article, and that's a basic link chain agent.
That front end looks like that because he made it look pretty. And again, great job, Matt. Thank you for leading. I'm just going to bring this up as my contact information. David, you want to come up and tell us who is our winner of the well